Rain fell heavily across the rusty zinc roofs of Ajagunle as tenants rushed through the muddy compound carrying buckets and soaked clothes. Inside the crowded Face Me I Face You building, fear lived quietly in every room. People spoke in whispers whenever they mentioned Mrs Alhaja Bose. 3 years earlier, Chinedu moved into the compound with dreams of opening an electronics shop. Within 6 months, armed robbers attacked his store twice. His wife left him soon after. Another tenant, Mama Ibe, lost her pregnancy mysteriously after arguing with Alhaja Bose over rent. Yet, every December, Alhaja Bose slaughtered cows, sprayed money at parties, and bought expensive gold jewelry, while her tenants suffered hunger. Nobody understood how her wealth kept growing. At night, strange sounds echoed beneath the staircase. Some tenants claimed they had crying voices there. Others said they saw shadows crawling around the compound past midnight. But nobody dared investigate. Because everybody who tried suddenly disappeared from the compound forever. The prison gate opened slowly as Emeka stepped outside carrying a small black nylon bag. The hot Lagos sun hit his face hard, but he smiled quietly. After 4 years behind bars for a crime he did not commit, freedom finally smelled real again. Nobody waited for him outside. No family. No friends. Only his old mechanic apprentice, Sunny, came with a battered motorcycle. "Brother Emeka," Sunny said carefully, "life changed while you were away." Emeka nodded silently. His former workshop had been sold. His girlfriend married another man. Even his younger brother stopped answering calls. That evening, Sunny took him to the cheap compound owned by Alhaja Bose. The moment Emeka entered the compound, strange coldness touched his body, despite the heat. Tenants stared at him with pity. One old woman shook her head slowly. "Another victim has come," she whispered. But Emeka ignored them. After prison, fear no longer lived inside him. Alhaja Bose welcomed Emeka with a soft smile and motherly voice. Her expensive perfume filled the dark corridor as she handed him an old key. "You look like a strong man," she said gently. "I don't tolerate troublemakers here." Emeka looked around carefully. Cracked walls, broken pipes, dim yellow bulbs blinking like dying fireflies. Yet the woman standing before him wore gold rings worth more than the entire compound. "How much is the rent?" Emeka asked. 200,000 yearly. The tenants nearby exchanged nervous glances. Everybody knew the rooms were too poor for such rent. Still, people kept coming because Lagos was cruel to poor people. That night, Emeka could not sleep. Around midnight, he heard footsteps outside his room. Slow footsteps. Dragging footsteps. Then whispers. A woman's voice chanting softly. He opened his door quickly. The corridor was empty. But at the far end, he saw Alhaja Bose disappear downstairs, carrying a red calabash. Within weeks, Emeka started repairing broken generators and vehicles outside the compound gate. His skills quickly attracted customers from nearby streets. Money began flowing again. For the first time since prison, hope returned to his life. One afternoon, a rich transport manager brought him 3 damaged buses to repair. "This contract can change your life," Sani said excitedly. But that same evening, Alhaja Bose suddenly appeared beside Emeka's workshop, smiling strangely. "You are progressing too fast," she said softly. Emeka frowned. "What does that mean?" "Nothing," she replied calmly. "Just remember, this compound has rules." That night, one of the buses mysteriously caught fire. The second bus engine exploded during testing. By morning, the transport manager accused Emeka of sabotage and demanded compensation. The contract vanished instantly. As Emeka sat silently outside his room that night, he noticed Alhaja Bose watching him from her balcony, smiling. 2 nights later, NEPA took light around midnight. The compound fell into darkness while heavy wind pushed dust through the corridors. Emeka stepped outside with a torchlight to fetch water. Then he heard it again. Crying. Faint crying beneath the staircase. Not ordinary crying. The sound felt painful, trapped. His heartbeat increased slowly as he walked closer. The staircase smelt like dead animals and incense. Suddenly, his torchlight revealed fresh blood dripping through the cracked cement floor. Emeka froze. The crying became louder. Then came whispers. Different voices speaking at once. "Help us. Don't leave. She took us." Before fear could stop him, Emeka pushed aside an old wooden board beneath the staircase. A hidden hole appeared. Inside the darkness, he saw clay pots, black candles, women's underwear, and dozens of photographs belonging to tenants. At the centre stood a large spiritual mirror covered with red cloth. Then the mirror moved by itself, and somebody inside the mirror opened their eyes. Emeka staggered backward as the eyes inside the mirror blinked slowly. His torchlight shook violently in his hand. The face inside the mirror was not clear, but the eyes looked alive, angry, suffering. Then he heard footsteps upstairs. Fast footsteps. Alhaja Bose's voice echoed through the corridor. "Who is there?" Emeka quickly covered the hole with the wooden board and switched off his torchlight. His chest rose heavily as darkness swallowed the staircase. The footsteps stopped directly above him. Silence. Deep silence. Then a low whisper came from beneath the floor. "She knows." Cold sweat covered Emeka's neck. Alhaja Bose remained upstairs for several seconds before finally walking away slowly. Emeka waited until her footsteps disappeared completely. When he returned to his room, sleep refused to come. Around 3 a.m., somebody knocked gently on his door. Come. 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 Emeka opened the door sharply. Nobody stood outside. Only a small, dirty mirror rested on the floor. The next morning, Emeka showed the mirror to Mama Esther, an elderly food seller living at the back of the compound. The old woman nearly dropped her kettle after seeing it. "Throw it away," she cried immediately. "Why?" Emeka asked carefully. Mama Esther looked around nervously before dragging him inside her tiny room. Her voice became low. 20 years ago, this compound was different. Families laughed here. Children played freely. Then Alhaja Bose lost her husband. She paused briefly. After the burial, she travelled to Ibadan. When she returned, strange things started happening. Mama Esther's eyes filled with tears. "My son got a bank job and bought me a freezer. 2 weeks later, he died in his sleep without sickness." Emeka listened silently. "She uses mirrors," Mama Esther whispered. "She traps people's destinies inside them." Suddenly, loud screaming erupted outside. The tenants rushed out immediately. One young pregnant woman had collapsed beside the tap. Blood slowly flowed beneath her wrapper. And upstairs, Alhaja Bose quietly closed her window curtain. Fear spread through the compound after the miscarriage. Tenants gathered in small groups, whispering prayers. Some blamed bad luck. Others blamed witches. But nobody mentioned Alhaja Bose openly. That evening, Mama Esther warned Emeka again. "Leave this compound before she notices you." But Emeka refused. Instead, he returned to the staircase after midnight carrying a hammer and torchlight. This time, he entered the hidden hole completely. The underground space smelled rotten. Black candles surrounded the spiritual mirror, while strange symbols covered the walls. Then Emeka noticed something worse. Every clay pot had tenants' names written on them. Inside each pot were personal belongings, hair, photographs, underwear, nail cuttings. Suddenly, he found one fresh pot. Written boldly on it, Emeka. His breathing stopped instantly. The pot contained prison documents, his old photograph, and fresh drops of blood. Then a woman's voice spoke behind him softly. "You should not have entered here." Emeka turned sharply. Alhaja Bose stood behind him, smiling calmly, with a knife in her hand. Emeka gripped the hammer tightly as Alhaja Bose stepped closer, slowly. Her calm smile looked unnatural inside the candlelight. "You are stubborn," she said softly. "How did you get my things?" Emeka asked angrily. Alhaja Bose ignored the question. "Do you know why people fail here?" she continued. "Because Lagos respects only power." Her face hardened gradually. "I suffered before I found this power. Men cheated me. Poverty disgraced me. Nobody helped me." The candles suddenly flickered wildly. "So I helped myself." Emeka noticed her shadow moving differently on the wall. Not human. Longer. Taller. "I only collect small portions from them," she whispered. "Their look, their blessings, their future." Suddenly, the mirror behind her began shaking violently. Faces appeared inside it. Crying faces. Begging faces. Emeka recognized dead tenants. Then one face screamed loudly, "Run, before she takes your soul too!" Emeka swung the hammer instantly. Alhaja Bose dodged quickly with shocking speed. The knife slashed across his arm, spilling blood onto the floor. At once, the underground shrine reacted violently. The candles exploded one after another. The mirror cracked slightly. A terrible scream echoed inside the room. Alhaja Bose's expression changed completely. Fear entered her eyes for the first time. "No," she whispered. The trapped faces inside the mirror suddenly became restless. The walls started shaking while clay pots burst open across the floor. Emeka used the moment to escape upstairs. He ran into the compound, bleeding heavily, while tenants rushed out in panic. Behind him, strange noises erupted beneath the staircase, like dozens of people screaming together. Then, darkness covered the entire compound. Every bulb exploded simultaneously. In the middle of the confusion, Mama Esther grabbed Emeka tightly. "You broke the blood covenant," she whispered fearfully. "But now she will kill you before sunrise." Rain poured heavily across the compound as thunder shook the sky. Nobody slept that night. Tenants locked their doors, while strange screams continued beneath the staircase. Inside Mama Esther's room, Emeka's wound burned badly. The cut on his arm had turned dark purple. "This is not ordinary injury," Mama Esther whispered while tying cloth around it. "She marked you." Suddenly, the corridor outside became silent. Too silent. Then came slow footsteps. Quop, quop, quop. The footsteps stopped outside the room. Mama Esther's breathing became shaky. A soft voice followed. "Open the door." Alhaja Bose. Nobody answered. Then something scratched slowly across the wooden door, like sharp fingernails. Emeka held the hammer tightly. The scratching continued for several seconds before stopping suddenly. Then another voice whispered outside. Not Alhaja Bose's voice. A deep, masculine voice. Tonight, somebody must die. Immediately, the compound transformer exploded outside. Darkness swallowed everything. Before dawn, Mama Esther finally revealed the truth she had hidden for years. There was a herbalist, she said quietly. A dangerous man from Ibadan. He gave Alhaja Bose the mirror after her husband died. Emeka listened carefully, despite the pain burning through his arm. The mirror feeds on human progress. Every tenant who pays rent becomes spiritually connected to it. Mama Esther's eyes filled with guilt. She sacrifices their blessings. That is why nobody succeeds here. But why hasn't anybody stopped her? Emeka asked. Because those who tried died mysteriously. Silence filled the room briefly. Then Mama Esther lowered her voice further. There is only one way to destroy the mirror. Outside, thunder roared loudly. The mirror must taste the blood of its owner before sunrise during heavy rain. Suddenly, a loud cry erupted from outside. Tenants opened their doors in panic. Sani lay unconscious near the staircase. Blood flowed from his nose and ears. And beside him stood Alhaja Bose, smiling again. The tenants carried Sani into Mama Esther's room while rain continued beating against the zinc roofs. His body shook violently, as if invisible hands were strangling him. Emeka grabbed him immediately. Sani, open your eyes. Sani coughed weakly before speaking. She called me downstairs. Fear filled his face. She said she would make me rich. Mama Esther closed the windows quickly. What did you see? She asked. Sani's lips trembled. The mirror. His voice broke completely. There were people inside it. Dead people. Suddenly, Sani started crying uncontrollably. She showed me my future. She said I would die poor like my father, unless I joined her. Emeka's anger deepened silently. Then Sani grabbed his shirt desperately. She already chose the next sacrifice. The room became still. Who? Emeka asked. Sani pointed slowly towards the next room. The pregnant woman who lost her baby earlier that week. At that exact moment, the woman screamed loudly outside. Then all the compound doors slammed shut by themselves. The compound descended into chaos. Invisible forces banged violently on doors and windows, while tenants cried and prayed inside their rooms. Emeka rushed toward the pregnant woman's room with Mama Esther and Sani behind him. But the door refused to open. From inside came strange chanting and Alhaja Bose's voice. "You belong to the mirror now." The woman screamed helplessly. Emeka used the hammer repeatedly until the weak door finally broke open. What they saw froze everybody instantly. The room was covered with blood markings. Candles burned in circles across the floor. The pregnant woman lay unconscious, while Alhaja Bose knelt beside a black bowl holding fresh blood. But something about her looked different now. Her eyes had turned completely white. Her voice sounded deeper than before. "You should have minded your business, Emeka." Suddenly, the mirror beneath the staircase began glowing through the floorboards. The entire building shook violently. Then the dead faces inside the mirror started screaming together. Rainwater flooded the compound as tenants ran outside in terror. The staircase cracked loudly while dark smoke rose from beneath the building. Emeka dragged the unconscious woman away quickly. Alhaja Bose laughed wildly inside the room. "You cannot stop me," she screamed. But Mama Esther suddenly stepped forward holding a broken bottle. "You forgot one thing," the old woman said painfully. "Every evil day has an ending." Before anyone could react, she stabbed Alhaja Bose's hand deeply. Blood splashed onto the floor instantly. At once, the underground mirror exploded with a deafening scream. The compound shook violently. The trapped faces inside the mirror cried out one final time before disappearing into darkness. Alhaja Bose fell to the ground screaming as her body aged rapidly before everybody's eyes. Wrinkles covered her skin. Her hair turned white. Within seconds, she looked 100 years old. Then silence came. Deep silence. As morning sunlight entered the compound, tenants stepped outside slowly. For the first time in many years, the heavy feeling hanging over the compound